Hello, Caleb Vank here for Lions Awaken. Today we had the privilege of interviewing author, attorney, and former Navy JAG officer Don Brown to discuss the crisis that's going on in Afghanistan and how that's affecting the world right now. Check it out.
Hey Don, thanks for joining me today to talk about the disaster in Afghanistan. There's been a lot of talk going on about it. I kind of want to get your take on who you think is to blame for this whole operation. Is it a lot of people want to put all the blame on the U.S. Do you think it's 100% U.S. or do you think a lot of what's going on is also to blame on the Afghanistan government?
The Afghanistan government has been corrupt. We know that. The Afghan National Army has been unreliable throughout the history of the war. But make no mistake, the international embarrassment that we're seeing on television now, the scenes of Afghans hanging from American transport planes as they take off, the disaster that's unfolding in our eyes is solely 100% on the shoulders of Joe Biden and his foolish administration, because it did not have to happen that way. President Trump advocated for a drawdown. Many of us did. I think we did need to draw down ground troops. I think personally we should have kept two major air bases there at Kandahar and at Bagram. We could have defended those and used those as power projection points. But this unmitigated disaster is solely on the shoulders of Joe Biden and every single American that voted for that guy. Make no mistake about it.
So, with that being said, what were some other options? I guess Trump had a plan implemented, right? And you think they should have had a couple bases there. What were some other options that Biden could have done? What were some steps he could have taken to prevent this?
Right. Even if he had planned on a total withdrawal, the first thing he should have done was never signal the date of his withdrawal. He should have selected a date and not announced it to anyone other than those closest on a need to know with a national security basis. Then we should have withdrawn all of our weapons that have been left in various caches around the country. The AR-15s, the Humvees, the helicopters, the jet aircraft, some that have been commandeered. Those should have all either been removed from the country and brought back to the United States or taken to a United States ally who is reliable, like Germany or France or someone like that, or destroyed if it isn't economical to do that, so that those weapons don't fall into the hands of terrorists. That's the second thing that should have been done once the date was decided on secretly. The third thing is then you get all Americans out so that we don't have a situation what we're looking at now with potential hostage situations. You get them out, so you got to be out, say, by the end of September or whenever, if your real closing date is November 1 or October 1 or whatever it might be, and you still don't telegraph your exit date to the Taliban. That's the most foolish thing you can do, is to telegraph what your plans are to the enemy. Then if there are any Afghans who deserve to get out, who have helped us in the war, or Afghan Christians especially, they should be given a priority in my opinion. You get them out, but that should be a very small number. And only after you remove weapons, Americans, and a selected number of Afghans who deserve to be out, a small number, only then do you announce your drawdown date. I personally believe we should have kept those air bases for a while anyway, because we know that the radical Islamists are petrified at American air power. We saw what happened, just with General Soleimani not long ago, even in Iraq, when President Trump took him out via drone and via special forces. So air power could have been a big equalizer in that part of the world. Plus, Afghanistan strategically is right borders Iran, which is the world's largest terror state. So I think we should have hung on to those bases longer. But you don't withdraw the way Biden has done. It is the most embarrassing, one of the most embarrassing moments in the history of the United States. It's embarrassed us in front of our allies. It's embarrassed us in front of the world. Nobody can believe what this guy says, and rightly so.
So, why do you think he did this way if he knew there were other options?
There's no logical reason. If you analyze that question, why did he do that under the prism of what is best for the United States and what's best for America? There's no logical prism or reasoning for the way that he bungled this the way he did. Now, is it possible that part of it could be explained by dementia? That's possible. I mean, that is really a possibility, that he has just somewhat demented and he's using no common sense. But I think he did it to embarrass the United States and to weaken us. See, I think the left, I think that their goal is to weaken the U.S. military, to weaken the United States of America as a superpower, to equalize things, to bring about a worldwide socialist state. So I think my belief is that this foolishness was by design. It was either by design or by criminal negligence. One or the other. It couldn't be anything in the middle. That's how bad it is.
What is the punishment for something like that with a commander-in-chief legally or constitutionally?
Well, I mean, the constitutional solution is impeachment and removal from office, which isn't going to happen. You got too many Democrats in Congress. But that's the constitutional solution. If you can show that there was active treason involved, there could be some other solutions. But, we don't have under the pillow evidence to know exactly what was going on in communication between Biden and his advisors. But we do know the results of what he's done. We know he's imperiled thousands and thousands and thousands of Americans who are stranded in Afghanistan right now, and his own Secretary of Defense says they can't go get them, which is a bunch of baloney. We got Navy SEALs and Army Rangers and Marine Recon. We got guys who can go get those folks out, security areas, and get them out. But they don't want to do it. They'd rather have Americans die than do what it takes to get Americans out.
Wow. So is there, you said the Secretary of Defense, so the military generals and the leaders that Biden listens to, they can only do so much because he's the commander-in-chief, right? Were they in with this plan as well, or did they try to tell Biden a different thing?
Well, I wasn't there. You're right. The Joint Chiefs of Staff statutorily are the principal set of advisors to the president. In the chain of command, the president gives orders down through the Secretary of Defense. Those orders don't go through the Joint Chiefs. They go to the operational commanders like CENTCOM or NORCOM, Central Command, Southern Command, things like that. Central Command is a general out of MacDill Air Base in Florida that controls the Middle East. So the order would go from Biden to the Secretary of Defense to the commander of Central Command and then go down from there. I am very disappointed with the direction of the senior military leadership in the United States. We saw them lie in the Extortion 17 fiasco, which is the movie that we recently did called Fallen Angel. We've seen them lie about a number of things. I don't know whether they gave Biden any pushback or not. We know that General Mark Milley, for example, has mentioned recently he's been studying, white nationalism so that he can understand it. I mean, pushing this fake narrative onto the United States military. He's doing it because he's a liberal. So I don't know nothing that guy says or does would surprise me. The same thing with the Secretary of Defense. His whole notion, they took a month where they stood down and tried to train the troops on nationalism in the ranks, which is a bunch of malarkey, but it serves their political purpose. So I had no idea what these cats were saying to Biden. Not that it would have mattered. I had no confidence in any of them.
As a military, you were a military person yourself.
I was a military officer.
Person yourself.
Naval officer, right.
Thank you for your service.
Well, you're welcome.
You put your nation first, so that would call you would be a nationalist, right? Is that a bad term?
I'm a proud nationalist. I'm America first. I'm not globalism first. I'm not one world order first. I'm America first. That is a great thing to be a nationalist. It means we love our country. That's exactly what it means, and there should be no apologies for that. I'm going to put America ahead of other nations.
Right.
That's what we do. But that's exactly what the left is trying to destroy. Because you see, a powerful America gets in their way of total globalism, which is what is their objective, so that they can control everything.
So, talking about the Taliban, going back to the Taliban in Afghanistan, knowing their history with Sharia law, what Sharia law is with the women and the Christians and anybody that basically is not Muslim.
Right.
Do you think that they can be a legitimate, internationally known government?
No. See, here's the thing. I was interviewed by another journalist just yesterday on this whole point. We went into Europe at the end of World War II, destroyed the Germans, destroyed the Japanese, but then rebuilt based on something called a Marshall Plan. We were able to do that because at the very root of the Germanic people and even of the Italian people, there was at least a Western civilization Christian base there. Okay? So there were some common philosophies that allowed that plan to work. In Japan, they weren't Christian. However, they were sort of Western industrialized. And because of their culture, they were submissive to having been defeated. But when you're talking about an Islamic state, and especially a radical Islamic state, where Islam, and you mentioned Sharia law, the whole notion of advancing Sharia law is through death and destruction, through killing people, through the sword. You're not going to go in there and spend billions of dollars to turn them around. If you're going to nation build, which we have no business doing, if you're going to nation build in a place like Afghanistan, you ship in as many Christian missionaries as you can. That's what you do. And then you maintain an air base here, you maintain an air base there. That's the only way to make a difference. So it cannot be done in a radical Islamic state controlled by a radical group like the Taliban, like in Afghanistan.
Wow.
Or Saudi Arabia or any other of those countries.
What do you think are going to be the biggest effects moving forward throughout the world by them establishing what they did in Afghanistan?
We have shown a signal of almost irreconcilable weakness from this particular person calling himself the president at this particular time in history. If Donald Trump had been overseeing this withdrawal, it never would have happened. There would never have been the international disaster that we have seen. Because whether you like his tweets or not is beside the point. The point of the matter is he's a business guy and he's going to use some common sense and he's implementing a military strategy, okay? So that would not have happened. Donald Trump rarely engaged the military. He had begun the withdrawal already. However, he had rebuilt the military by, number one, ending suicidal rules of engagements, by number two, beefing up our air power. Our air power at the beginning of the Trump administration, we weren't able to get spare parts for airplanes, had gone to pot, and he had shown that he would strike when necessary, such as Soleimani, for example. He could strike anywhere out of the blue. He was respected, he was feared. But this guy, masquerading as president now, is a joke. He's a joke to our allies. Even CNN and MSNBC are criticizing him for what he's done now, but the message he's sending, or the way this has been mishandled. So you can look for China now, which is asserting itself as a military power more and more every day, to possibly make a move on Taiwan. I hope it doesn't happen, but if they're going to make a move, this will be the perfect time for it to happen, because Biden will sit by and do nothing. He's a deer in the headlights in the best case scenario. In the best case scenario, giving him the benefit of the doubt.
What do you think, is there anything we can do moving forward helping this Afghanistan situation with the women over there, the children, the Christians? What are anything we can do to help them?
Well, we've got to work through organizations that are able to get in there under the cover of darkness, and with missionary organizations, we're able to get Bibles in there. If we can smuggle people out, and there are legitimate reasons for asylum in the United States, and there are illegitimate reasons. Illegitimate reason is an economic, depravity. People coming in from Central and South America and want to come across the border looking for a job, that is not a legal reason for asylum. But religious persecution is a reason for asylum. So we have to try to work through organizations working in the region to identify those folks, to pray for them, and try to help get them out the best we can. We have to hope and pray that there's a change in the United States Congress next year. We got to have a conservative control of the Congress. The problem is, as long as Biden is putting his appointees in the State Department, they're still going to push a woke agenda. But at least it'll block some of the things they're trying to do. So we have to be vigilant. And again, as I've said earlier, we've got to get on our senators and congressmen about not allowing mass immigration from Afghanistan. We have to be very, very careful about what we're doing, because there is a very, very high terror threat from that part of the world. We can't just open the floodgates, because to do so, we're actually committing suicide here in the United States, because they will attack.
Well, thank you very much, Don. Appreciate you joining me today and talking about this. Looking forward to interviewing you again sometime.
You bet, Matt. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please share, like, and subscribe to our channel. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and our website, liονsawaken.org. Till next time.